Okay, terms in genetics. I'll list the common terms we most often use to explain concept of the genetics. I'll start with the first one, very important. That is hybrid, hybrid, hybrid. 2, homozygotes. 3, heterozygotes. 4, hemizygotes. 5, alleles, alleles. 6, dominant alleles. 7, recessive alleles. 8, genotype. 9, phenotype. Okay, I would like us to look at these terms used in genetics and where we use them or where they are applicable in genetics. I'll first start with hybrid. Just like the name hybrid. Hybrids are offspring. Offspring are young ones or progeny. Or offspring are the outcome of both parents when they mate, the outcome of mating between two parents that have exchanged their genes will be the offspring. Offspring are just like young ones. And then we'll talk about hybrid. Hybrid are offspring. They are offspring or young ones that looks genetically different. Once an offspring looks genetically different from the both parents, it is referred to as hybrid. I'll give you an example. Suppose we have I'm crossing a tall variety versus a dwarf variety. Tall and then dwarfism, as we describe most often. Okay, then this tall is a physical appearance which can be observed physically, as well as dwarfism. It can be expressed. One can see it as phenotypical appearance or physical appearance, which I can describe as phenotype. When I want to describe the genotype of this individual, that is the genetic makeup now, this tall, that is if it is dominant, if it will be expressed in all generation more than the recessive character. I should express this gene tall in form of this allele, but they will all bear an uppercase or capital letter to show that the gene is dominant. In genetics, uppercase letters or capital letters connotes dominant characters. And when we have the dwarf traits, what we use to contrast that character, since it's not going to be expressed the way it is in the next immediate generation, and then we denote it with short letters. That means that I see this short letter here, it means that this gene is recessive, and this capital letter here means that this gene is dominant. And then when in genetics, only one of this pair of gene will be inherited in gamete or will be contained in gametes, these two sex gametes. The two sex gamete, the male and the female gamete. So in the gamete will only contain one gamete out of this pair. Same as this, one gamete out of this pair. When this thing happens, in genetics we call this disjunction, or we call it segregation. We can call it disjunction, or we can call it segregation. These two things can be used interchangeably. They both happens during meiosis, when the cell divide. It's a type of cell division that must happen before fertilization. Now that these pairs of characters have divided, have disjuncted, or have segregated, and then the two can now unite or fuse at random to give a new form of allele. This is the offspring. This is offspring or young one. And if it is offspring or young one, since we have mentioned earlier that this capital gene for tallness is dominant, so this offspring will appear to be tall and not short. So phenotypically, this offspring, I can describe this offspring as first filial, called F1. This offspring appears to be tall, not short. The short gene will able to appear here because the gene is recessive. This appears here because it is dominant. So, but something happened here. This, in as much as this is tall, just like one of the parents, but in terms of genotypical ratio, the genotype ratio or the genetic makeup of this tall is quite different from this tall, and also quite different from this as well. So the both parents were able to produce an offspring that have the same genotype with theirs. So any offspring that its genotype is different or its gene makeup is different from the both parents are said to be hybrid. So therefore, I can call this particular individual here hybrid of these two parents. That's what hybrid is all about. Okay, now, having known this, we can look at another term we often use in genetics, which is homozygote.